Hi guys, how are you doing today? Hope you are having a sunny and drama-free day. Ready for some news stories from Ask a Lawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's family, who demands OP stays with his wife after she lost her baby, even though she confessed to OP that she was having an affair and that the child might not have been his. Listen to the story, guys, to find out all the details, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Okay, so I and my current wife, Jane, met each other at a grief group. I had lost my wife and unborn child while she lost her sister and husband in a car accident. I guess we hit it off because we really understand where each other is coming from. We had gotten married in 2017, and life was actually great. I went to visit Jane's loved ones on their death anniversary, and she did the same with me. We helped each other heal in many different ways, and for the first time in a while, I felt the type of serenity that I had before the tragedy of my first family. I and Jane were very happy, and after a while, she told me that she wanted children. I thought it was a great idea because, to me, having children is a blessing that I was denied. However, months into the pregnancy, she seemed off. I chalked it up to pregnancy hormones, but in hindsight, that should have raised my suspicion. She was going out a lot for a pregnant woman, and I don't mean like once every 2 days. She was going out every day. But in her defense, she would always come back in an hour, so I would assume that she's going out with friends to shop, look at clothes for the kids with her friends, or to her parents' place. Fast forward to when Jane tells me that she thinks her water broke. I called my parents and hers to have them meet us at the hospital while I rushed her to the hospital. After I finished parking, she drops the bomb on me that she's been sleeping with 2 others, and there's a chance that any of us could be the dad. I was absolutely devastated. I felt like someone had punched me in the jaw. I told her that I wanted a divorce, even if the kid was mine. She tried to argue, but I told her to use her energy on giving birth and not this. After a while of being outside the delivery room, a nurse informs me that Jane gave birth to a stillborn. I went inside as my dad and her dad left. Only 3 people were allowed inside. And she's a blubbering mess inside, but honestly, I couldn't care less. Her parents and my mother are inside trying to console her about the baby. My mother gets upset with me that I'm not being more sympathetic to my wife, who's crying about our child. I let her know that she was cheating on me, and there's a potential that the kid isn't even mine. My mother and mother-in-law got super upset with me and started calling me all sorts of names, but I just walked out and left. Jane came home the next day. She told me that she was upset and just wanted me to be here for her. We got into a huge argument, but she struck a nerve when she brought up my unborn baby that died with my first wife, and that I should help her get through it because I have experience. I was so upset with her that I told her to go to her parents' house because I don't want to deal with her, and I might do something regrettable if she stayed. Jane started crying uncontrollably and begging to stay with me, but I didn't budge. My mother angrily called me a couple of hours later to berate me for treating a woman who recently lost her child badly. I didn't want to hear it, so I hung up. My father called me minutes later and calmly told me that while he can understand why I reacted that way, I shouldn't treat someone so vulnerable like that. I do feel awful because I can understand what it's like to lose a kid, but this woman cheated on me with multiple dudes. Even though I could possibly not be the father, I am grieving because I did want the kid, and this is the second time I've been denied the chance to be a dad. I really need help. Any and all advice is welcomed and appreciated. Losing a child is hard, but she cheated on OP with multiple dudes and expects OP to comfort her within hours of her telling him. I would have done the same thing. She made a conscious choice to cheat on OP multiple times without thinking of OP's feelings and wants OP to care about hers. I think OP deserves much better. First, I want to share some suspicions I have. Secondly, I know this will sound like the plot of The Parent Trap. Please don't write me off. Let's start with the basics. Dad left when I was 3. From what I've gathered, it was a non-violent yet ugly situation of loathing between the two. Mom has only talked about it once, and I suspect she regrets telling me. I'm a 24-year-old male, by the way. My earliest 2 memories include a girl. In the first, we're in a room in my maternal grandparents' house, deciding that we're shy and don't want to talk to people. So when they ask us our age, we simply hold up 3 fingers. I'll never forget that moment, partly because I think it's the first time I ever held up 3 fingers at the same time. It was a new sensation. But she was there, a girl. I've ruled everything out. My grandmother's peers, neighbors, none of them had kids that age. There's simply no reason for this girl to exist. She's in another memory, a similar one, probably from the same time. This was one I forgot until recently. I work in marketing now. There's an old indoor sports center with 2 soccer fields, hockey rinks, and a gym. In addition, there's offices, old arcade games, a place for concessions, and a daycare center. They've been closed for a while, but we're planning a big upswing pre-COVID. Our agency was going to give them a push, and I visited a little under a year ago to take some stills. As soon as I walked in, the memory hit me. My grandmother dropping us off at the daycare center inside. Us. I remembered it so vividly. Most of the lights were off, so the indoor fields looked like a dark ocean. The gym lights were on, and she must have been going to physical therapy, and she dropped 2 of us off. I know it was the girl from my 3 memory. It stuck with me, but I didn't chase the thought. It just must have been some girl. After all, there's no pictures of her, and no family member that ever brought it up. Then again, it's the exact same situation with my dad, whoever and wherever he is. Could he have taken her and my mom got me? I want to pursue this because one of the last things my grandmother ever said to me before she passed last fall sent chills down my spine. She was talking through the window of her home, and I was masked up and keeping my safe distance. She knew things were winding down, and her mind wasn't very sharp anymore. But she said, "You've grown up so much. You were so small back then. Both of you were." I instinctively replied, "Both who?" But she recoiled from answering, as if she remembered not to say something. We helped clean her house after she passed away, Mom and I dug through some photos. Photos I had never seen but didn't tell me anything new, except for the same girl in the background of 3 of them. She's swimming in the pool, running in the park, and searching for Easter eggs at church. Is it her? I don't know. There's no pictures of my dad, and if they wanted to keep my potential sister a secret, I can understand she wouldn't be in any. But wouldn't it be possible that my grandmother kept some where she was slightly in the picture, whether intentional or not? What should my first step be? Talk with my mom? I don't want to seem crazy to her. I have a stepdad, but we're not too close since he came into the picture when I was a preteen. Who knows if he knows anything? I imagine my dad and sister are out there somewhere. Do you think I have enough to support that belief? Can't thank everyone for the support and for the overwhelming agreement that I should pull my birth certificate. Once I had the free time to do so, I got the copy. Sure enough, I'm one of one, no twin. The girl from my memories and possibly the photos still nagged at me. Enough was enough, and I decided to do what many of you also suggested: honest talk with Mom. I got the chance to sit down with her over dinner. It was tough convincing her not to bring my stepdad, but with my girlfriend out for the night, I managed to convince her it could be mother-son time. Then I hit her with the question, do I have a sister? Her reaction wasn't what I expected. It was almost like she was glad. Why do you ask? I told her everything I told you guys, my memories, G-Ma's slip-up, and I showed her the photos we took from G-Ma's house. She was silent for a second. That would be your half-sister. She asked if I was ready and told me the whole story of her and my dad, filling over the gaps, and, well, it's kinda crappy. My mom and I were a second family. My dad and half-sister's mom were married and were family friends. Dad cheated with my mom, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. My half-sister and I were born within a month. Mom knew we were on the side and continued to go along with it, and my grandmother would babysit both of us. This is the time where all the memories and photos came from. When we were about 3, my half-sister's mom got wise to the truth and insisted her family move away and cut off all contact. Obviously, that's exactly what happened. Mom wasn't happy as she liked the arrangement and took it like a bad breakup. Mom and G-Ma, the only 2 who knew who my dad was, decided not to tell me. In a bit of not crappy news, though, he's allegedly been financially supporting us the whole time. Just a bit here and there, but enough to make my life as comfortable as it was. Then Mom told me their names. She wants to be left out of it if I try to make contact, but I'm not sure I will just yet. That's a personal thing to figure out, and I think I'll take my time. But some social media searching led me to my half-sister's profile. I broke down in tears when I saw it because even 20 years later, I recognized her. So she's not my twin, but my half-sister is out there, and she's exactly who I thought she was. Thank you all for the support. Update, final. First off, I don't really need anything solved. I just wanted to share an update since so many people have expressed interest. Thank you for your kind words. Hey, it's the guy who thought he had a twin sister but discovered he was actually a part of a second family. It's been an interesting couple of months. Well, where did I leave off? Not long after I discovered the identities of my biological dad and half-sister from my mom, my stepdad sat me down. It was pretty generic. You're my stepson. Yes, but you're a son to me stuff. Like I said in a previous post, he's a good guy. We're just not the closest. He looked like he wanted to say something else, however. He lingered, opened his mouth, then closed it. Left my room with a polite nod, and that was that. I didn't pay it too much attention at the time. Here's some important background on my stepdad. He started dating my mom when I was 12, and they got married when I was 15. Like my mom, he doesn't do any social media and holds a steady job. He's a middle-of-the-road normal guy. I never thought he'd have skeletons in his closet too. See, I have my mom's last name, and in a sweet move, my stepdad took our last name when they got married. I'm the one joining the family, he would say. He's one of the nicest guys I've met. More on that later. My mom told me a bit more about the arrangement with my dad when he moved away with his wife and daughter. She said that my dad supporting us financially wasn't as simple as him mailing a check every month, but she didn't elaborate too much. So I have access to the names and contact information of my biological father and half-sister. They live on the other side of the country and seemed pretty normal. With a lot of nervousness and doubt, I decided to reach out. I'll spare you the whole process. A couple of texts, a couple of days pass. Dad and I have a video call, and then, when it seems like an awkward foray was coming to an end, how about I fly you out here? Lots of soul-searching and mental preparedness later, I set across country to meet my, as I've been calling them, half-family. I was shocked. My dad was like me, a huge nerd and collector. His wife was very nice and even took me aside one time to share she had no ill will towards me and not even much towards my mom anymore. She apologized for being the one to keep me from my dad for so long, but I let her know she wasn't to blame. And my sister and I have become best friends in the past 6 months. The headline here is, she remembered me too. She has several more memories than I. She can't remember the 3 thing, but she remembers daycare at the indoor athletic facility and told me about riding little battery-powered four-wheelers at Grandma's. I remember it as soon as she said it. We are twins and all but mothers. We've become pen pals, discussing our families and what our growing up experiences have been. And it turns out, it's a good thing I had her for support when what happened. I visited their home in the Pacific Northwest this summer when there was an insane heat wave. They have no AC in the home, no need for it, so the house was consistently reaching 90 degrees. We're sitting around one night, my half-family and I, sweating on the deck. The sun had sunk behind the mountains, and we were sharing some beers and telling stories. Dad was telling a story about a day he skipped school while his brother went to school, and Dad got away with it because his brother signed his attendance sheet. My dad's wife said, my stepdad's name, has always been punctual, and my dad said quickly after that, "Yeah, we all know that, even you, Anon." We all kind of froze. My sister looked just as confused as me. My dad's wife stared silently into her glass, and my dad sighed. "Yeah, I didn't know how to tell you about this part. I was thinking he might want to." Here's the shocker. So, way back when my half-family left, my dad had his brother, my uncle, take care of the family. Bring by groceries, fix up the house. He helped us out a lot. And for the first decade of my life, he was kept distant from me. But then, him and my mom fell in love. I was a preteen when I was introduced to him as my mom's boyfriend. My dad was shocked by the relationship and cut off contact. And my uncle married my mom when I was 15. Once I was sure everything was finally out in the blue, I think it was okay. My stepdad, uncle, and my dad don't really talk anymore for obvious reasons. I had an enjoyable rest of my visit, but dreaded coming home to confront my stepdad. Uncle? God, I wish you all could have known how I felt. Once back, I sat my mom and stepdad down. I know you're my uncle. Just like every other problem I've had over the past year, it resolved much more easily than I could have imagined. I begged my parents, all of them, to tell me everything I don't know. I'll keep personal conversations personal beyond this story, but for the first time in my life, I know everything about myself. I know it's messed up. I was a part of a second family. Grandma forced to keep secrets, not knowing my real dad or even the existence of my half-sister. My stepdad being my uncle. But I've turned out okay. I'm in a steady relationship and have a good job, and I'm barely in my mid-20s. I've learned valuable lessons from the mistakes of my loved ones, and I want to leave you with this. My parents have had the weight of the world on their shoulders for 20 years. In the past couple of months, we found cathartic healing and a stronger bond than ever. Forgiveness is in the air. I like to think my grandma knew this would happen eventually. Don't keep secrets from your loved ones. But if you have some currently, approach the situation deftly and honestly. Times will be tough, but the light at the end of the tunnel is revealing. I'm not confused anymore. My family has doubled in size, physically and emotionally. For the first time ever, we'll continue to grow as one. OP's dad is the a-hole in all this. He keeps a second family, walks away from his son, asking his brother to look out for said son and mistress, and then cuts off brother because he falls in love with the woman he's been asked to watch out for. A-hole. Glad everything has worked out for OP. The only innocent ones here are OP and his sister. All the parents suck for lying, but his dad is the worst.